Hello. So we're really hoping this series of videos is going to help you when writing your 20 markers in geography, because there's certain things we're always looking out for and we need to know them off by heart. So here's one for the changing places topic in geography. And firstly, just to point out before we read it, this is a really good level 4 answer, is it's got a mini intro, don't need a massive intro, and it's got 2 beefy paragraphs, and then a substantial conclusion. Conclusion needs to be detailed. So, intro, 2 beefy paragraphs, and a conclusion. And what I'm going to do this one is just mark it with you. And there's 6 key zones of the mark scheme we need to try and hit when we're writing our 20 markers. So firstly, I'm going to use CO for conclusion. Need a detailed conclusion. I'm going to use EV for evaluation. So are you weighing up the answer throughout? SYN for synopticity. Are you linking to other areas of geography? TS for temporal or spatial scale. So have you acknowledged any change over time or space, different locations? Case study. Is it really specifically rooted in case studies? And then the last one is CP, so key concepts and processes here. Right, so let's read this one. I'm going to use those codes to show you where this student has achieved those things. So here's the question. Evaluate the extent to which corporate and government bodies have influenced the place meaning of a place you have studied. Place meaning is an individual or collective perception of a place. So that's CP, because they're understanding the concepts and processes. I've studied Gosport in Hampshire, where corporate and government bodies have had an impact on the place meaning to a limited extent. So they've actually written a conclusive statement there, conclusion, so that's really, really nice. So just 2 sentences in the intro to introduce the topic and to define the key words. Firstly, the corporate body Taylor Wimpey, that's case study, a housing development company, has attempted to impact the place meaning of Gosport by redeveloping the infamous Rowner Concrete Jungle estate since 2009. So Concrete Jungle, 2009, case study specific facts. Finished last year, the products included an investment of £145 million into new housing and road layout, along with a large Tesco store, Costa and Subway restaurants. That's all really good case study. This has influenced place meaning as the redevelopment has attracted young professionals to the area, with housing being affordable but not for rent. Average price around £200,000. So case study again. Replacing old undesirable tenants of the Rowner Tower blocks, once called the worst estate in the country by a BBC article. So again, really, really good case study. As a result, the stigma surrounding Rowner has slowly changed and people don't associate it with fear as much as they used to in the 1980s. So a bit of temporal scale, because they've done change over time, and you're starting to evaluate the question, so the stigma is reduced. It's likely that this transformation of image will continue into the future as new families build their own culture and history. So into the future is really good temporal scale. So they've said not just how it is now, but how it will be in the future. The bold white branding of Alva Village, more case study, as a name for the areas also portrays a sophisticated, middle-class, peaceful and affluent image. So it's more evaluation of how it's changed the place meaning. The nearby Alverstoke area has a higher socioeconomic status, so the name Alva is designed to inspire this image. It's a really good case study. It can be argued that outsiders visiting Gosport, this may affect the place meaning, but for insiders who know more of the area's history, it's just covering up what lies within. So outsiders and insiders isn't in the question here, but they know it, and that's really good synopticity, because they're using something else from the topic that's not in the question. I would also argue that with only 620 homes, more good case study, the area does not constitute a large proportion of Gosport's 82,600 population, and therefore it hasn't had a large impact on Gosport's place meaning. So brilliant evaluation as a whole, only the local area. So it's more spatial scale there, temporal spatial scale that talked about. It's one area but not others, so that's really good. That's one really beefy paragraph. They've hit all the mark scheme areas in there, apart from conclusion, but that comes at the end. Second paragraph. In terms of government bodies, Gosport Borough Council have tried to influence place meaning by the design of their new logo. This has Gosport Borough Council in bold, strong naval blue font and a Viking-style ship riding a wave in the background, with a flag blowing the same way as the ship is moving at the top of the mast. So, brilliant case study, good description of what that actually is. It is clear that the council are trying to represent Gosport as a town with a strength and are proud of its naval history. Let's move this up so you can see. There is also a sense of moving forward powerfully into the future. And so this is like how they're trying to affect place meaning, so a bit of evaluation there. This does influence place meaning for outsiders for Gosport who may not know the town, but insiders are already well aware of the naval influence, living around HMS Selton, Haslar, Priddishard and other naval areas, and having an awareness that it is part of the culture, with the area putting special significance on Remembrance Day marches, memorial events, as well as naval art exhibitions. So there's a load of case study in there, and again the insiders outsiders thing, so good synopticity, so SYN there. They also know the historical connections of the town, including the Gosport Ferry, so more case study. Insiders also may have, as part of their place meaning, the rise in antisocial behaviour, fast food culture, there are 30 takeaway restaurants on High Street and Stoke Road, and a decline in the Navy since the 1980s, which has resulted in increased unemployment of 4.6%. So great case study throughout here. The council logo hasn't reversed its meaning to any significant extent. So that's great, just coming back to that question again, saying has it impacted it to a large extent? They're saying no, because the insiders know about these other things that are affecting the place meaning. Okay, let's conclude overall. In conclusion, the place meaning of Gosport of outsiders may be influenced by Gosport Borough Council and Taylor Wimpey to a large extent, a nice use of the word extent from the question there, but of insiders, these corporate and government bodies haven't changed the place meaning to much of an extent, and a relatively insignificant exogenous factor. Oh, that's not in the question, is it exogenous factor? But there's a good link to it, so synopticity, and it said it's a relatively insignificant exogenous factor, these corporate government bodies. The withdrawal of naval investment, a rise in fast food culture and antisocial behaviour in Gosport may be more powerful exogenous factors. So great links to other factors there. In the future, to affect and improve the place meaning of the whole area of Gosport, there would need to be significant investment to increase employment opportunities for young people to counteract the negative impacts of the decline of the Navy in the area. So they've gone to the future there, so that's great temporal scale. And to affect and improve place meaning, they'd have to invest. So that's another good link to, because we know investments in exogenous factors, so it's good synopticity. And they've really concluded overall that these things haven't had a big impact on the place meaning. So what the examiner would then do is go to these 6 areas, and they'd give it a level for each one. So this one, has it got a detailed conclusion? Yes, level 4. Has it got evaluation throughout? They're constantly going back to the question. Yes, that's level 4. Has it got synopticity? Yes, they've linked to exogenous factors. They're linked to the bits about outsiders and insiders. So that's level 4. They could possibly do even more on that. Here's temporal scale. So if they link to the future or the past or different locations, how the question is answered at different scales. So it said yes in some areas, not in others, perhaps more in the future, that kind of thing. So yes, level 4. Case study, oh, it's just littered with it, it's fantastic, so that's level 4. And concepts and processes, have they really understood what place meaning is? And I think they have here. They've defined it in the intro, so that's really, really clear. And then the understanding is evident through their answer. So it's probably a level 4 answer. It's a top answer, 19 or 20 out of 20.